Welcome to a new deep dive. And trust me, today we're cracking open a book that will fundamentally shift how you think about something we all kind of take for granted, the secular world we live in. We're diving deep into Talal Asad's monumental work, Formations of the Secular.
It's a really foundational text.
Absolutely. And our mission for this deep dive, really, is to pull out the absolute core ideas from this, well, it's an academic powerhouse, let's be honest. Yeah. We want to give you a crystal clear understanding of how our secular world actually came to be, and how it interacts with major religious traditions like Christianity and Islam, especially in modern times.
Yes, Asad's work truly prompts us, to reconsider some deeply ingrained assumptions about what the secular even is. It challenges perspectives. It really urges us to look beyond the surface and understand its complex historical roots and its relationships with faith and modernity. It's a fascinating journey, actually.
Okay, let's unpack this right away then. Asad's first bombshell, and it really is a bombshell for many, is that the secular isn't this neutral, empty space that just appears when religion fades away. Forget that idea.
Right, that's the common misconception.
Exactly. Instead, he argues it's a very specific historical creation, a product of particular transformations, especially within Western societies. It's not just the absence of religion. It's a whole new system that actively defines what religion is, where it belongs, and often shoves it into your private life, keeping it away from the public square.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how Asad digs deep into the history of the secular, especially its, surprising origins in Christianity. He emphasizes that the modern Western concept of the secular has a deep Christian genealogy, meaning its roots are surprisingly embedded in how Christianity itself evolved over time.
Genealogy, that's a key term here, isn't it?
Absolutely. We often assume secularism means just breaking away from religion, completely separate, but Asad shows how it's actually a transformation of specific Christian ideas and practices.
How so? What kind of transformations are we talking about?
Well, think about the shift from a religiously integrated political order to one where religion increasingly becomes a matter of private belief, private conscience, historical developments like, say, the Protestant Reformation, the really messy religious wars that followed, and the Peace of Westphalia, that landmark treaty that reshaped European power. It effectively forced a rethink of religion's place in public life.
Right. It kind of created new boundaries.
Precisely. They essentially set the stage for what would become the modern secular state. Even the very notion of toleration as a public virtue, for instance, emerges directly from this specifically Christian history. It wasn't just a happy accident.
Wow. So it's not just a gradual fading of religion like turning down a dimmer switch, but an active shaping of it. That's a powerful and, frankly, quite unsettling idea.
It is. It forces you to re-examine the narrative.
And what about modernity itself? It turns out the secular isn't just a passenger on the modern train. Asad argues it's actually the engine powering it. How does he, weave these two significant ideas together?
He argues that the secular isn't just something that happened in modernity. It's a fundamental condition of modernity itself. They're intertwined.
Okay.
Modernity, with its emphasis on individual reason, scientific progress, new forms of governmental power, it both defines and is defined by this secular project.
So they shape each other.
Exactly. Yeah. The modern state's claim to neutrality, for instance, isn't really neutral in Asad's view, not at all. It's an active effort to organize society, to regulate everything from law to education to the economy. And in the secularized modernity, religion isn't just tolerated.
Right.
It's categorized and managed as a distinct bounded domain. It's often permitted only if it conforms to the secular state's norms.
So the state sets the rules for religion, essentially.
Yep. In many ways, yes. It's about the state asserting its authority over all aspects of public life, including deciding what proper religion looks like and where it belongs.
That makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. So if the secular has these deep Christian roots and is so intertwined with modernity in the West, how does Asad then look at Islam's engagement with, or perhaps its experience of, the secular? Does he present a completely unique narrative there, or are there points of convergence with the Christian story?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Asad does indeed present a unique narrative for Islam. It's quite distinct. Unlike the Christian context where the secular emerged, you could say, from internal transformations, often spurred by internal theological and political struggles.
Right, like the Reformation you mentioned.
Exactly. For many Islamic societies, the concept of secularism, this idea of separating religion and state or drawing that sharp public-private divide, was often introduced as an external modernizing project.
Ah, so it was imported, not homegrown.
Largely, yes. Think of it less as an organic internal evolution and more as an imported framework, often linked to colonialism or post-colonial nation building. Historically, Islamic traditions have integrated religious norms and legal systems, like Sharia, much more broadly into social and political life than the European church-state model typically allowed.
That's a key difference.
It really is.
Yeah.
So when Western-style secularism is introduced, it's not just a seamless transition. It can lead to very different formations of the secular, or even, deep conflict, because it often clashes with deeply rooted alternative frameworks for organizing society and faith. It's like trying to fit the square peg of an imported system into the round hole of a pre-existing integrated religious worldview.
That's a crucial distinction. It really challenges the idea that secularism is this universally applicable, one-size-fits-all solution for managing religion.
Absolutely. It complicates that universalist claim significantly.
Speaking of challenges, what were some of the most maybe unexpected revelations or truly thought-provoking arguments that emerged from Assad's work for you? Especially concerning how our current understanding of religion and public life might be fundamentally reshaped.
For me, one of the big ones is his direct challenge to the very idea of secular neutrality.
Ah, yes, the neutrality point again.
We commonly assume the secular public sphere is this fair, neutral ground where all beliefs can coexist freely, like a level playing field.
Right, that's the ideal, isn't it?
It's the ideal, but Assad argues it's anything but neutral. It carries its own specific ethical project and a particular idea of what legitimate religion looks like. Often that legitimate form is a privatized, belief-based, non-coercive form that doesn't challenge state authority.
Okay, but what about the counter-argument? That secularism, even if imperfect, is maybe the only practical way to ensure religious freedom for everyone in a diverse society, precisely by aiming for neutrality. Does Assad engage with that?
He absolutely does, and this is where it gets really interesting and nuanced. Assad suggests that even concepts we hold dear, like religious freedom or human rights, while seemingly universal,
Yes.
are often framed within a secular discourse that might implicitly constrain or reshape religious practices to fit its own norms.
So the definition of freedom itself might be biased.
In a way, yes. It's not necessarily a malicious thing. He's not saying it's bad, but it's not neutral. For instance, a religious practice that relies heavily on public displays or strong community structures might be seen as less legitimate or perhaps more problematic.
Then one can find a private worship.
Precisely, simply because the secular framework implicitly prefers the latter, the private expression. So Assad isn't condemning secularism outright, but he is asking us to look critically at the power inherent in the secular itself, to recognize its own biases, its own history, its own definitions of what counts as good or proper religion.
It forces us to acknowledge that the rules of the game, so to speak, are already set by a particular history, a particular lineage.
Exactly. It's not a blank slate.
Okay, this raises an important question then. Ultimately, wrapping this section up, what are the central takeaways? The absolute must-know nuggets from these excerpts for anyone looking to be well-informed on this topic.
Talal Asad offers you, I think, a powerful new lens. First, the secular isn't some universal, inevitable endpoint of progress. It's not destiny. It's a historically specific product. Its forms are deeply shaped by the unique trajectory of Western Christianity. That's point one.
Okay, shaped by Christian history. Got it.
Second, modernity isn't just concurrent with the secular. They're intrinsically woven together. They co-created each other. You can't fully understand one without the other.
Right, the engine and the train idea.
Exactly. And crucially, third, the experience and the actual formation of the secular differ significantly across various religious traditions, particularly Islam, where the imported Western model often encounters these deeply rooted alternative frameworks, leading to different outcomes, different tensions.
So no one-size-fits-all secularism.
Definitely not. His work deepens our understanding by exposing the genealogy of the secular, revealing its implicit norms and power structures, rather than just accepting it as a neutral given. It's about peeling back the layers of what we thought we knew.
This deep dive into Talal Asad's formations of the secular, It truly unpacks layers of history and thought.
Yeah.
It fundamentally changes how we might view the world around us.
It really does. And as you reflect on what we've explored today, maybe consider this. How might our understanding of global conflicts, societal challenges, everything from debates over religious symbols in public spaces to tensions between nation states and religious communities, how might that understanding change?
Yeah.
If we truly acknowledge that the secular isn't a universally defined or experienced phenomenon, if we see it instead as a historically and culturally formed concept, often tied to specific religious lineages and their transformations, what difference does that make?